Well, let me say first of all, Coach Pelch, Lynn, and all you guys, appreciate the opportunity to be on here with you. I was asked to help moderate this thing, or at least ask some questions, and I'm just honored to be, and feel privileged to be able to do that. So thank y'all. When we start off here, I would like to say this. I had the privilege of watching you guys play several times, and what I remember about your team, even by standards in those days, y'all's line wasn't particularly big, but you were very, very quick, very aggressive up front. Of course, well coached by Coach Raniger, and then of course just a lot of speed on that team, a lot of determination. I think the most impressive thing about y'all's team was the chemistry you had. You all played well together. You liked each other. You respected each other. And it was just a lot of fun watching you guys play through that undefeated season.
Well, let me kind of kick things off, and then, Ron and I'll kind of go back and forth a little bit. But some of you I know and some of you I don't know, but all of you I hope to get an opportunity to be able to meet in person, and whether I'm out on the road or you come to Jackson to catch a game or whatever it may be. For those of you who don't know, I'm the athletic director. I was the former football coach, the head coach for 10 years. Before that, I was an assistant coach for 3 years. So I've been at Millsaps almost about 15 years, all in, and it's become an unbelievable home for me. And I really appreciate all the work that the people before what we have right now have done for our programs and things. The value of a Millsaps college degree is in its alums and the work that they do. That's where the value for this generation of kids is. And I greatly appreciate the work and everything. And so today we're here to have a little bit of fun and talk a little bit and maybe reminisce a little bit, maybe give each other a little bit of a hard time, maybe lie a little bit, which happens as we get a little bit older, and actually tell the truth a little bit more. When we're 18, 19, 20, the truth hurts. When we're 40 and 50, we're a little bit more realistic about who we were. I mean, for instance, Joey was a cornerback. When's the last time we had a cornerback that looked like Joey on a Millsaps football team? Let's be honest, okay? So I want to talk a little bit about that and just your experiences, but let's kind of start this whole thing off by talking about how this began. In '79, when the season ended, going into the '80 season, you knew that there was going to be something, or you had to know that there was going to be something special going on. Talk about the prep, because the prep is so different now. Football and college athletics is a 365-day-a-year, 12-month cycle. And in the 70s and 80s, it was not that same way. So talk about finishing the '79 season, going into '80 before we got into camp, and what that thought was. What was the talk amongst the team and in preparation for the '80 season?
Well, I'll give my perspective because I came out of junior college. So I had hadn't met hardly any of the players. So the first time that Millsaps became my home was the first day of practice when we reported for practice. So and a lot of guys probably don't know this, but one of the most unique things on that day was a lot of the guys that I played against in junior college. I'm sitting here looking at them, and Melvin may not remember it, but he played quarterback at Colin. I intercepted one of his passes and when we was in junior college. Robert Hemby was a guard at Gulf Coast, and he saw me. He said, "Those eyes." He said, "I know those eyes." He said, "You played at Southwest, didn't you?" I said, "Yeah." I played right over him in junior college. He was a guard. I was a linebacker. So, and the other thing was all the Millsaps people, they harbored no ill will just because we came from junior college. They just took us right in. We became one of them, like we had been there forever. And I think that was probably, if you're looking for some magic to make something happen, I think that's a big piece of it. They accepted us, and we came from all different junior colleges, all different backgrounds, and we just blended together. as one, and they took us in just like they had known us forever. I think that's the beginning of what eventually occurred with the 9-0 season.
I'll step in and say, just, from coming in as a freshman 2 years earlier, we had a really good group of freshmen. And we kind of began to see that once the maturity of a lot of the skill players especially, we knew that if we got the right mix of some more junior college, we had a lot of junior college guys on there, Ronnie, like you would know a lot of them. So we had a lot of respect for the maturity that the junior college player brought to the team. And as we began to, get ready for the 1979 season, the undefeated season, we really saw that the coaches had recruited and helped us fill in the positions that really we needed and we knew we needed. And when we saw guys like, Anthony and Melvin and Jocko and any of the other ones, it was a special anticipation of what we might could do.
I guess Gus and I were the two that had played on Coach Davis's first losing season in about 12 years or so. Wasn't that our freshman year, Gus?
Yes. Yeah. I think we only won 2 games that year.
I think we knew this one, we were going to go out better than we started.
Yeah. I would just say that, going into the spring of that year, of course, we didn't really have spring. We had spring workouts, but no real formal, spring season. And, I just kind of looked at myself as a football player. I was just looking forward to the season started. I didn't really drill down into who necessarily was coming in to fill a position that we needed talent in. But I knew that we had a lot of guys coming back, a lot of experience, and it was just an opportunity of getting together with the guys because, as Ronnie previously mentioned, we had some amazing chemistry on our team, and I was just looking forward to, getting through the summer and getting back together with the guys, because that's kind of where my home was.
I suppose I had a different perspective. Can you hear me? This is James Henley.
Yeah.
Good here.
Yeah. I wondered who my roommate was going to be. Millsaps traditionally had 2 African-American players. Orman Docks graduated. And I wondered who Coach Davis was going to bring in to be my roommate. And while I recognize that wasn't probably on any of your minds, that was on my mind. So when we got there, and during spring, obviously, we would work on our own, and the coaches would sit in the stand. I was just hoping it would be somebody like Orman, who I got along with, where they came from junior college or where they came as a freshman. I was just hoping to be somebody that I could connect with because they would be my roommate for the next several years. That was my primary thought. Because I knew we had a good team, but I also wanted to make sure I had a good roommate. And so when we got there, I was just excited because there were going to be more than 2.
Who was your roommate, James?
On the road trip, I'll let Brad talk about that because he got called to the same meeting I did.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant your roommate at Millsaps.
No, I meant for road trips.
Oh, okay. Well, I'd have been glad to room with you, James.
Yeah,
Well,
this is the first time, I guess, in Coach Davis's history you had a tight end rooming with a tailback. And I don't remember the details of the meeting, but I think we just said, "What the hell? Let's do it." I realize now, in retrospect, that was a significant thing. And James, obviously, your sensitivity to it was much greater than mine. I was just hoping I wanted to play Mike Torello. was there and good football player. He and I were battling for a starting spot. That's where most of mine was, but I looked at all you guys as brothers anyway. And you know, James, hadn't we worked out together that summer?
We had, but I think the issue for me was I was still an African-American living in the South who was going to be rooming with a white guy when we went to Maryville, when we went to certain other places, and the 60s wasn't that far removed.
Yeah.
And so while that wasn't an issue for most of y'all, it still was always, to a certain degree, in the back of my mind. And like you said, 40 years later, you can talk about it a little bit more. Back then, you know, and we lived on a campus where we had certain fraternities who still wore certain uniforms on certain days or for certain events. So, yeah, we were a football team. Yeah, we were brethren, but there were other issues still going on.
Can y'all hear me? This is Melvin.
Hey,
Yeah.
Melvin.
Okay.
All right, so like for me, I had no idea that I would be at Millsaps. I had signed with Mississippi Valley, and my brother Joe had signed with Millsaps. And my brother Joe had to have a hernia operation, so he couldn't go to Millsaps. And I was really done with Mississippi Valley because I like playing football, not watching other people play. So I was actually going to Southern Miss just to try and get out of school and get qualified so I could teach and coach. And my brother Joe told me to go and talk with Coach Davis about maybe taking his spot. And, you know, the first thing I said, well, Joe, I can't get in Millsaps. And so he said, why don't you try? So when I got accepted, I looked at going and talking with Coach Davis. So, and all I wanted to do is find a place where I fit, because I wanted to play ball, but I knew I wanted to graduate from college. That was my number one deal. So when I talked to Coach Davis, he told me he didn't have any financial help. And I said, Coach, you got any equipment? And he started laughing. He chuckled. Oh, yeah, I got some equipment. I said, well, Coach, how about this? I said, how about you let me come out for your team? And if I can't help you, I'm already situated for Southern Miss, and, you know, I'm good to go. So I'll thank you and I'll leave. So I kind of looked around and saw he had some pretty good skill in a lot of spots, but he needed a split end. And I got in the split end line. And he saw me catch a ball or two. And he said, Melvin, maybe you can help us at split end. I said, Coach, that's just what I was thinking. But from that point on, I was looking for a place I fit. And Millsaps is one of the best decisions I've ever made with my life, because I got around a bunch of guys that love ball, but they all had other things that they appreciated as well. You know, they were pretty much career oriented, but they love playing ball. And I love playing ball. I love playing ball, not watching other people play ball. But my anticipation for the 1980 season was I wanted to be on a team. I wanted to be on a team. And being on a team, that means that you give and take. And see, that's what I appreciate, is there were a lot of people from a lot of different walks of life. You know, as James said, this was a time when, you know, we weren't far removed from segregated South. We all knew about the segregated South. But you know what? My roommates on the road, I remember Claude Arnett. I remember my teammates. I remember being around some really neat guys. And I remember Harper Davis and Tommy Raniger just keeping us all grounded. But, you know, my anticipation was just being on a team and fit. And I had no idea what to expect.
Well, Melvin, I was the other white boy in your room, if you don't remember, for 2 years on the road. This is Joey Shelton.
Yeah, Joey, let me tell you something. You know, all I know is I had roommates and we got along. And that's one thing about because I wasn't there as a freshman and a sophomore, so I didn't have some of the concerns that James had because he was there. And I can understand when you only have two Black Americans and one leaves, and you got along with that person, and you don't want to get put in a situation with somebody that you can't get along with. But I know who was our other roommate, Joey? It seemed like it was four of us.
It was Moose, David Miller.
It was Moose. So it was myself, Claude, you, and Moose. And like I say, I don't remember anything but good times.
If you don't mind, I'm going to jump in here and kind of ask y'all a little bit about, once you got into your season, you started off with some impressive wins. Fisk was your opening game. You won that handily. And then you played Southwestern, which is now Rhodes, big rival, took care of that one. Swanee, y'all know that one's Coach Davis's. He always was real nervous that week because he and Majors always had their little own rivalry. But won that one. And then obviously the highlight of the year from an outsider looking in, may not have been from y'all's perspective, but the Central Florida game, what a huge win that was for Central Florida. Now it's a Division I power. But just wanted to ask a question about, at what point do you guys felt like y'all had something special going on in terms of your season? And what point do you think, hey, we got a chance to go undefeated this year? At what point did that kind of start hitting you guys?
Well, I'll start out. I thought about this as I was driving home today. Y'all remember prior to the season, Ohio State had gotten in some trouble. I don't remember if it was their quarterback that got in trouble for gambling or whatever, but there was a radio station up that way that polled their listeners, and they decided to adopt a team to follow that year besides Ohio State. I think it was a country station, and Ronnie Millsap was real popular at the time. Anyway, they ended up choosing Millsaps, and I think the guys from the radio station actually came to Jackson to one of our meetings. And so, I just thought that was kind of cool to, we're going to have a radio station follow us around. And I think they went to a few games or, somehow or another, they publicized our season as we were rolling along. So that was really pretty cool. And then I remember, I think it was really kind of late in the season, and I want to say it was at the game after the game we played in Atlanta, but I just remembered the sense of urgency that Coach Davis and Dr. Knox had as far as calling in our statistics after the game so that we could start getting some national recognition that we, that they felt like we deserved. So it was really at that, we weren't involved in that, but I just remembered Dr. Knox and Coach Davis talking to one another, and it was, Doc, you got to get on the phone and call these statistics in. And and at that point, it was like, we were undefeated at that time. And at that point, it's like, we got a shot now. So that's my memory of that.
Well, I don't remember a lot about being concerned about being undefeated. For me, it was probably more of a week-to-week thing. But I know toward the end of the season, during the whole season, you couldn't help but be concerned about where you ranked in relation to the other teams, because Coach Davis every week would read off where different teams ranked in different regions. And the whole push in Division III is, if you're a football power, is to try to get into the playoffs. And there was a lot of stuff going on with the politics of the playoffs and this and that. And so you had to be just a complete monster in the Southern Division to be able to even get up into the discussion. So I remember that sense of urgency to be able to just wax people out to get the big recognition in terms of getting up in the polls, and we needed to be up high in the polls to get the playoffs. And that was the urgency that I saw. I'm sure undefeated probably helped add to that potential for getting in the playoffs, but that's the thing that I remember the most. And the fact that we didn't really close out the season in a bang, we kind of let Miles, we squeaked by when we should have probably beat them 60-0. And I think that probably pulled us down in terms of the voters' potential to put us in the playoffs.
So let me ask you a little bit about that, or let me ask somebody else a little bit about that, because I was part of a team as the head coach that was 9-0 going into their last game, and we needed to be 10-0 to get an at-large bid. We were without a conference AQ that year, and so we were really playing in a way that was not good towards the back half of the season because of the pressure of being undefeated and knowing what that took or what it was going to take, kind of like what you're talking about, Anthony. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about the pressure that came with that as you're looking in the back end of the season, and superstitions or things that you always did, because we all have those as we move through our athletic careers. But talk to me about that pressure and what you did to ensure that you kept this momentum going and that you could get this spot in the playoffs, because getting into the Division III playoffs is tough. There's almost 300 teams right now that are playing, 272 teams that play in Division III. So being in the top 25 is a special thing. So talk to me a little bit about that.
I don't think there was any pressure. I think for me, we were having fun. We were having fun on the field, and thanks to people like Gus, Byrd, and a few, and believe it or not, our resident Rhodes Scholar, Brad Chism, they taught me how to have real fun, okay? So we had fun on the field, off the field. That's what I felt. It was more enjoyable than it was work, because we knew that we were the potential to do good, but we just kind of grinded it out from day to day, from week to week. I mean, we didn't have a big long-range plan, not for me. It was get the next win, get to the next week. That's how I felt about it.
Yeah, I want to chime in and agree with Anthony real quick. I want to go back first to two-a-days, where we hated practicing one against another, first team offense against first team defense, because we really had nobody going both ways, and we began to see that we had a full lineup of players, and I hated going against our defense. You know, Gus at defensive end, Lewis Gilbert at defensive end, transitioning to defensive tackle, the linebackers like Chuck Smith, Anthony, Willie McCullum. I hated playing against our defense. And back to what Anthony says again about our routine, our practices were grinding, and we were very grounded in the fact that it was literally one play at a time, 1 minute at a time in practice, and the coaches just didn't let us get ahead of ourselves. We might have looked down the road to Central Florida only because we were practicing sweep left Melvin pass since two-a-days, and we finally realized he's not going to use this play until we get to Central Florida, and we began to set that up. So coming into the Central Florida game, we knew we were going to run that play, but that's just the anticipation that we had for that particular game. But otherwise, as quarterback, watching the defense play, you know, I got a real strong saying about football. They can't win if they can't score. And you're talking about a defense that only allowed 31 points the whole year. I mean, that was so – and then the offense, you know, and defensive scoring, we averaged as a team about 38 points a year.
Yeah,
So it was amazing.
Yeah, Aaron, it's important to remember our offensive scheme was what the Packers ran in the 50s. And I'm not joking.
I know.
I'm not joking. And, when you look at a team scoring 70 points by running off tackle, Coach Davis, we had to have the sweep left Melvin pass. Thank God we had that against Central Florida. But most of those scores were on running game and some just simple pass routes here and there. The defense held them and we had a lot of time on the field, but it's not like Coach Davis or Coach Radiger modified the game plan or the seasonal plan because of some high-powered offense. I recall a lot of frustration that we had better athletes that could do more, do a lot more aggressive things on offense, but obviously we didn't articulate that to the coach. But that I always felt like we could do that.
Talking about the pressure or lack thereof, what I remember is the only team that could match us speed-wise was Central Florida. I think we had this confidence that if it was close in the fourth quarter, we were going to win because we were in better shape than anybody we played, and we were as fast as anybody we played. So we just kind of had this unyielding confidence that we were in the best condition, and it didn't matter how big the other team was. We were gonna out tough them when it came down to the end.
Yeah. As everybody remembers, that summer prior to the season was just incredibly hot.
Yeah.
And, a lot of the major universities were practicing super early in the morning or inside. And, Coach Davis and Coach Raniger, we never broke our routine. We did our 2-a-days. We did our one water break. We did, the things that we had done, every day. We did the same thing. We never deviated from it. The statistics that, and I'm speaking from the defensive side of the ball now, when we got this invite to do this panel discussion, all the statistics that were sent to us, the one that stood out to me the most was our defensive rushing statistics. And for the entire year, I think we gave up about 350 or 60 yards.
Rush.
It comes down to 1.27 yards per rush, and that is just unheard of. 31 points I still think stands as a Division III a record to date. But I still remember how incredibly hot that summer was, and dragging to that afternoon practice after laying in the air conditioning for just as long as you possibly could, and then put your shorts and flip-flops on and running to the field house to get dressed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm gonna just tell you this: having coached from 1982 and still coaching in 2020, and having coached 30 years of college ball, 8 years in high school, and 2 in middle school, which is what I'm doing right now. My defensive philosophy was influenced by Tommy Raniger. We always contained the ball with our defensive ends. Gus and Frank Lyle would not let the ball outside of there. They always set an edge. Chuck Smith played a 7 technique from a stand-up position. We played Lewis Gilbert, and my man that transferred, tried to go to Mississippi State, I can't remember. We played a split front. We played a 4-3. Anthony Bonds in the middle, and Joey and Moose played the corners, and Carl played the safety, and Terrell and Willie played the monster man or the rover. That defense right now, if some of those coaches that's getting paid a whole bunch of money could spend a little time with Coach Randall, it could help them out a whole lot. Because I was on offense, but I was paying attention. I've been a defensive coach all my career. And it's amazing how good a coach Coach Raniger and Coach Davis were and are in my brain. Because they set the tone for me for everything in my life, just what I learned from them. Those 10 hundreds we had to run, no matter what, holding us accountable for every detail. we had to run scout team and our position, and we had to run those perfect plays. It's amazing what they did, the two of them, when I think about it. So, you know, that's what Coach Raniger would not allow us to ever think good about ourselves. He was going to put you in your place immediately. I don't care what position you played.
Can vouch for that.
Hey,
Jack
so
talked about a little adversity there a while ago, and every team goes through some, no matter what. Can y'all talk a little bit about some things that may have happened during the season that gave you some adversity and you had to pull together, you had to fight through as a team to come together? Again, you had that unique chemistry, but just some insight on your real challenges you saw that season.
Some things we can't talk about.
We had injuries, but we had two quarterbacks. We had Byrd and Chris Busey. We had two really good tailbacks, James and Daryl McLeod. So we had enough skill people, and Coach Davis was smart enough to move people around, to make adjustments, he and Coach Raniger, to accommodate or to put a Band-Aid or patch up when we had injuries. And I'm sure there were a lot of things, but I know the injury part of it, they were able to just come up with things that would help us get through.
And I think that the one thing that Coach Davis did that maybe I saw that other people didn't see, I know every year I was there during the season, I probably at least 3 times during each season probably had at least an hour one-on-one with Coach Davis in his office where he called me in to sit down and talk. And we talked about different things. You might not remember that Miles game that you're talking about. Maybe I remember, maybe you don't remember. I didn't play the first quarter and a half. And the reason I didn't play was because I had a doctor's appointment that he thought I should have rescheduled. My parents didn't think I should have rescheduled. I listened to my parents instead of him. And because I chose to listen to my parents instead of him, he told me I wasn't going to play the first half. And so I told him that was fine. So yes, I revered Coach Davis. I loved Coach Davis. I learned a whole lot from Coach Davis. But we would have talks sometimes, and maybe y'all didn't, because I didn't always agree with every decision he made.
Yeah, I had some talks with him too.
Yeah, I didn't play the first half of the Miles game myself because I had missed a practice on Monday, or just I was there to practice, but I had gotten beat up pretty bad. I think we were in Shreveport. Who did we play in Shreveport?
Baptist Christian.
Baptist Christian. Anyway, I laid out over a punt and just got annihilated, and I missed Monday or something practice, and you know, I remember thinking, golly, but then, you know, I got to play the second half at the Miles game. And yeah, Coach Davis was just, I mean, he had his ways, but he managed to get the most out of us, I think, with what we had.
I mean,
And
I could tell in that game, James, that there was an air of something that was off in the Miles game, because we had been just trouncing people the entire season. And for some reason, we just couldn't get it going to just blow that team out like we should have. Yeah. I don't know if it was the coaches were, you know, distracted. We didn't have the best players on the field at the proper time. I didn't play a lot in the second half. I know I played some into the third quarter. I don't know if I played the entire third quarter,
Right.
but I don't think I played any in the fourth quarter. But something was off. I didn't know what it was. And I mean, even now I'm starting to hear things that I didn't even know was going on. So.
And I only mentioned that because he asked about the Miles game earlier. And I think that a lot of that probably played into the Miles game. Especially if Gus was sitting on because Gus was a key part of that defense.
Yeah.
And James was the key part of the offense.
Yeah.
Well, you know, a mark of a hallmark of a great team is being able to win ugly, and that was a win. And,
Yeah.
That's
that was
true.
But from a political standpoint, I don't think that game did us a lot of good
right.
as far as trying to get some political pressure to get us in the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, speaking of the play,
it might be good if we didn't go into the playoffs, because if we had to go up against Widener or Wittenberg or whoever they were up there, but we may not have made it out alive.
But the thing I always had an issue with was, why were teams in Pennsylvania considered part of the Southern Division?
Don't know.
That's part of that political process.
No, I think they'd been winning for so long they had to start spreading the footprint out, and they just put them down here to.
So that whole process has changed now, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I've got a little bit of insight into that, and I didn't really know much about Division III football before I came to Millsaps. There's historically the Division III power has always been in the Northeast, and that's where the most schools are. That's where the density of small liberal arts schools are. It's not really in the South, and so in the Southern region, there weren't a lot of Division III schools in there. So they kind of got thrown in and redone with some of these other schools, and that's why you would have a Pennsylvania school in there, and even up until maybe 5 to 7 years ago, it was interesting. We had some, there were some schools that were in the Western Division that were in Texas, and that's not really a Western Division school. But as they try to sort those regions out and things, so it does get political to a certain extent. And there's not a lot of love for Southern schools, and definitely wasn't at that point in time, despite the fact that we've been in the playoffs in 70. Talk to me a little bit about that, not making it. So we didn't get to the playoffs. We go undefeated. Everybody's feeling great about it. I mean, you got to feel good about that. You win all the games on your schedule. So what was that feeling like and going through that when we find out we didn't get selected?
Oh, well.
Very
It
disappointing.
was tough.
We'd like to go on, but I don't think it really, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not sure that we obviously didn't have a history of going to the playoffs. So we didn't know how it felt. And when we didn't make it, I mean, it was like, okay, whose house we're going to go to after the game and go have a good time, you know?
Yeah, I think, right. I think Gus is right. I mean, we play for each other, and we play for those coaches as much as sometimes we didn't want to admit it. And it was over. And, I mean, look, we'd been through those 100-degree two-a-days nonstop, and it was, I can't recall this massive morning. It was like morning session. It was like, okay, let's go have a beer, right?
No, we had a lot of beer.
Yeah, a lot of beer. And then we had to get ready for finals. I mean, it was, I mean, we were, as much as people don't want to admit it, I mean, we were students first.
Yeah.
We had to, we finished the season. Our season didn't go as late as normal season or as college seasons go today, but it was time to
November
about going into finals.
It was kind of like this for me. It was kind of like we didn't make it. The season's over. My eligibility is over. You turn the page and you go to class the next Monday, and life continued. And to be honest with you, I've not felt bad about not making the playoffs in all this time, even though we felt like we were that good, we were that close. But I think that's the part that makes a Millsaps football player a Millsaps football player. There's life outside of football. Football is not life.
Right.
You know, it's just a vehicle to get you to the next point. It's got its usefulness, and then you close that book when the time is out, your eligibility is done. You know, you move on. There's no crying in football, so to speak.
Yeah.
So you just, because there's a lot of life outside of that that's got to be lived, and I can honestly tell you, I've lived a lot of that life, and you know, I've traveled a lot. I post pictures on Facebook. People see them. There's no regret with me about it. I enjoyed every minute I was there. Enjoyed all the people. You know, one of the things I'm most proudest about is that I say I've shared many a beverage with a Rhodes Scholar. Not a lot of people can say that. You know, very few people. I tell them I know a major division college football coach personally. You know, he used to borrow my car to go chase whoever he was chasing. So,
What about for you, Roger?
things-
You maybe have a different take on it. You thought it was hard.
Well, no, I remember being disappointed, but of course, when you now and you look at it objectively, you know, maybe what Gus said was correct, but at the time, we all thought we were a pretty darn good football team, and I remember being disappointed and thinking that it wasn't a fair system on how the teams were selected, because back then it was a straight selection. There weren't any playoffs, correct? I can't remember
No.
exactly what the process was, but I know it's changed.
Well, there's playoffs, but you had to get selected.
They took the top 8 ranked teams.
That's right. Yeah.
But it
Guys,
didn't come from division.
One story for me that a memory that stands out that I think encapsulates some of what y'all were talking about earlier. After Central Florida, and we had, you know, the defense was on the field the entire game, and we beat them on a trick play, sweep left Melvin pass, Jesse McWright caught that, and we hung on, and we were just euphoric on the way home. And I remember stumbling off a bus.
Might have had a better team.
And the ladies with the hats on says, "That's the Alabama football team. Those boys, that's Alabama, University of Alabama." And I thought to myself, we're not Alabama, but damn sure we just feel great tonight, and there's nothing better in our lives than feeling that way. And to me, that was just a wonderful experience to be around everybody and be part of that. And you know, like Gus said, I wasn't as mindful 40 years later of not having that playoff experience as I was having had that previous 12 or 14 week experience with you guys and the rest of them.
Following up on what Brad's saying, could y'all just speak? I know there's a lot of fond memories in a season like that, but can you just think about maybe your fondest memory of that season and share with us?
One thing I want to share before, and it is perhaps one of my fondest memories. Melvin alluded to it earlier. For 2 years, Melvin and Claude Arnett and David Miller and I roomed on the road together. David played left corner and I played right. And David passed away from cancer.
Yeah.
And I just want to lift up his memory. His nickname was Moose.
Moose.
And he was just so fast and graceful when he played. He was the furthest thing from a moose you could imagine.
Yeah.
But I just want to give a shout out in his memory and just express a lot of appreciation for him. And now, as far as on the field, my favorite memory is not in a game. It's in practice. And it was just watching Willie McCullum hit that 7-man sled with his forearm. Nobody could do it like him. And everybody was just amazed when we would watch him hit the sled. It was a real show. This monster, strong safety linebacker that could just punish you. And there was a play during the season when the fullback busted through the line, and when Willie hit him, he went straight back. It was like he hit a brick wall and just went straight back on his back. I don't know if y'all remember that. And that may have been the next year, but I remember that. It was pretty phenomenal to watch. Actually, I think the lead blocker was in front of the guy. Willie, just knocked them both down. So.
Wow. My memories are not game oriented as well. We spent the vast majority of our time in preparation mode. And the two things that I think about even to this day are when practice would wind down and we would have to run after practice, you just held your breath to wait what it was going. It was either going to be 4-4 or 10-10. And if it was 10-10, you had a bad practice and you ran 10-40s and 10-100s, and it just was bad. And then the second thing that I think of periodically is how the defense, we scrimmaged before we went down to the end zone. The offense ran, through the entire playbook. But we would scrimmage, and the defense really would have to let the offense score so we could quit scrimmaging. Because I don't think they could score against us. I don't think it will.
I disagree. What do you think about that,
I
disagree.
That's my recollection.
Hell, y'all were just like every other team. You knew what plays we were going to run.
Exactly.
All the plays. We could have concocted some plays y'all ain't seen in a while. Sweep left and sweep right. Henley left and McLeod run left. Right. And yeah.
Well, either way, we still had to let y'all score so we could.
Well, we appreciate it.
My fondest, I wouldn't say fond, but probably two things that stand out. One, when James was talking about his roommate, he had the black roommate that left, and he was the only black guy there. My first roommate was a white guy, Pat Byrd. Mm-hmm. The first semester I was at Millsaps, Pat Byrd, I think he was from Ocean Springs, if I'm not mistaken. Right. He was my roommate. I don't know who were more shocked, he or I, but being, again, like James said, from the South is something you always think about. But Pat was cool. I was cool. He didn't bother me. I didn't bother him. He was cordial. I was cordial. I mean, he was on the football team, so he was just like my brother in a sense. Yeah. But I think culturally, it was probably a little bit more than he could stand. I mean, not in a negative way. It was probably more than what he bargained for. I think culturally, he was probably more comfortable because I think he was a KA. And I don't know if he wound up going to the KA house or getting a room with a roommate as a KA. But that's what it was. On the road, it was me, Willie McCullum, Chuck Smith. So you had two black guys. I can't remember the fourth guy. It might have been
No, it wasn't Jody.
David Rule.
Might have been Jody. Might have been Jody Hilton. It wasn't David Rule, I don't think. But we got along great during that time. My roommate sitting on the bus was our esteemed Roger Smith. I used to call him a rock hound because he pointed out every rock for every mile of every trip.
The geologist.
And I did that to my kids when they were small. I say, see that rock there? This is this kind of rock. You know how I know that? Roger Smith told me. So.
But I remember those trips. Ronnie, you were talking about those trips. Now, I was a little too big, but all those backs would stretch those hammocks up across that Continental Trailways bus and sleep with the hammocks strung up between the cargo compartments up above. And but it was rough on
Yeah.
that Continental Trailways packed in there, especially on the ride home when you beat up and trying to sit in that seat and get some sleep. But well, I guess Ed Centeno was he graduated the year before that, but he always had something for the ride home. But
I suppose
anyway, go ahead.
I was just saying, my two funniest memories, I suppose, would be, and I don't know if it was fun, but sort of what I think Byrd alluded to earlier, was my first game at Millsaps when we played another team, and you go out on offense, another team is senior film, and they call out every single offensive play you're going to run ahead of time. Because those are the same plays you've ran year after year. But you could execute them because you knew them like the back of your hand because you ran the same plays all the time. But then the other thing I still remember to this day is Claude Arnett. A couple people referred to him. I just remember that summer before the 80 season, Claude made up his mind that he was going to go and ask for water. And I don't know what possessed Claude that day to go ask for water. And Claude asked for water. And I just remember we had left practice and we had all gone to get something to eat. And as I was leaving the cafeteria, Claude was still out there running. I never forgot that.
Hey, now I hear that Marshall and Vic are both great storytellers here. So can we get some memories from from those two?
No, I'm gonna ask
Byrd
another
drinking a bunch of beer. Has anybody noticed that Byrd is drinking a beer on this call? And I'm not mad at you, Byrd, but either everybody else has got something in their coffee cup or Byrd is the only one that's having a beer. I mean,
What's new?
more. I'm gonna get Gus and Melvin to see if they can answer this question because James was talking about preparation and repetition. Can y'all still run these plays backwards? Because I heard you demonstrated at Auburn or somewhere one time where you could run a play backwards like you had seen on the film.
Yeah. You know, we used to do that prior to practice. We were such a close-knit bunch of guys. You know, we'd go out, before practice for 30, 40 minutes and we'd play kickback or something like that. We just punt the ball back and forth to one another and see if we could get field position. And then, we'd go out there and mess around, because back then there was no, digital video. It was all on film. And so, they run that film forwards and backwards. And we'd go out there and practice and line up and, run off.
Everybody could run their play
run them backwards. Exactly.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this. One of my fondest memories, and it may have not been during the undefeated season, but I thought it was. But when we all ate either pregame or we ate a meal at Gus's house in Atlanta, his parents, they fed us, the whole team. And that's one of the experiences for me. And that stands out in my mind as much as anything. And that and the fun I had hanging out with a whole bunch of gym rats that were just like me, that love school or behave like they love school, but really love ball too. And see, those memories, it's just something unique about that. Hanging out with a bunch of guys that are just like you, that all of you really enjoy playing the game for the right reason. And that's what I remember most about my Millsaps experience. I played ball with a bunch of guys that love ball like I did. Really enjoyed going to practice, really enjoyed hanging out with each other, really enjoyed just the experience as much as anything. And to have a meal at one of your teammates' house, all of you together, that's a unique thing. And I'm a football guy.
That's the only reason you played Division III football, is you love the game.
That's
because
right. And
I
it's nothing
remember
like that.
even when we were undefeated, there would be girls over in Baco washing clothes during our football games 150 yards away from the field and wouldn't bother to come to the game.
That's right.
And half the professors thought you were crazy for playing football too.
Yeah.
And so that's the only reason you play football at Millsaps or maybe Division III overall. You love to play. I mean,
You
heck,
love
I
to play.
couldn't have played
That's right.
Division I football for sure, but it was a great experience.
All right, I'm ready for y'all now. Mike Torello's not here on the call, I don't believe, but first off, being a kicker and part of my work study, I was also a manager. So most of y'all would hit the dummies after practice, and y'all remember the one that had the wood in it. So we had a bonfire one night up on the golf course, and Torello and I somehow got down to that equipment shed. Somehow we got into it without a key, and we made sure that that dummy ended up on the bonfire. So y'all are welcome. Some of y'all may have already known that, some of you not. And then some of the other memories that we would have, obviously, on the bus ride back and forth is we would the freshmen would tend to lock them in the bathroom. And if y'all remember the West twins, Tony and Randy,
Yeah.
I forget which one, but one of those we left in there for a couple hours. I think it was Tony. And then speaking of the Central Florida game, first off, half of the team, I think, were Kappa Sigs. So when we were in Orlando, Dexter Canelo, y'all remember him, I believe somehow he got on the bus a bottle of vodka, if I'm not mistaken. So we had a Gatorade cooler that we mixed up for the ride home, listening to Dennis sing country songs. And some of the other things on the bus, I believe that we would write some letters to a specific magazine. Y'all will remember that. Everybody would chime in and make this, I'm from a small school in the South and went to a bar the other night, fill in the blanks. I don't think any of them ever got published, but so that's about my fill in. But I enjoyed, as I have for 40 years, being part of the team. And I'll be the only one that will probably remember this, but I put the 84th point on the scoreboard on that last game.
Right.
But I love y'all like brothers today.
Let me share one thing very personal that involves all of us, because you all played for Coach Ranger and Coach Davis. Some of you had gone, had graduated by our senior year. My mama died before practice one day in two-a-days, and Coach Davis told me, and then I went home, and how this blur of things happens. You show up at the funeral, and there's Byrd Hillman and Roger Smith and Fat Daddy. And the first thing that went through my mind was, I've never been so happy to see this snaggletooth man in my life. The second thing that went through my mind was, how in the hell is Coach Davis running practice without the quarterback and the left tackle and the line coach? But seriously, those men, they really cared, and I'll never forget how happy I was to see my brethren. So
I think that what I appreciate the most about all of you all is the same thing that I appreciate about the people that I played college football with. When we get together, we talk very little about the games. We talk very little about what the scores were, how many tackles we made, or any of those. We talk about these things. We talk about the silly things that happen at practice, the things that happen in the locker room, the road trips, and the the cards that you played and the dumb things you did to the freshmen and the parties. And I think that's what's so powerful about football. Today, we've talked about some very emotional memories. We've talked about desegregating a team. We've talked about people that feeling uncomfortable because there's only 2 black people on the team and who's the next person coming in. And that's the thing that I love about sport, and I particularly love about football. Football is different, in my opinion, than any other game and any other sport that you can play. It pulls people together in a much different way than just about any other sport. And I really appreciate the fact that you all have that strong feeling here for each other today. And it's amazing that you can go through an entire undefeated team. I think about these kids that we coach and we work with today, and if they went through an undefeated season and didn't get into the playoffs, they'd be complaining about it for their entire life, because they didn't understand the work and the essence of all the other things that you all have that you all understand. And so I appreciate y'all sharing with us today and sharing with me today and allowing me to be part of this. I mean, it's an awesome thing, a group of teammates getting together, but it's particularly awesome when that same group of teammates went undefeated in the season and worked so hard to do it with 2 coaches and no water, unless the trainer was good enough to wring it out of a towel for you, right? Is that the story that I hear?
That is true.
Much. It's pretty true.
You sucked it out of your jersey is what you did. I remember one time getting down and on one of the sprinkler heads and sucking on that, and Coach Ranniger catching me. Boy, he lit into me for sucking water out of a sprinkler head.
Hey. And Ronnie, before we go, will you please give Leanne our thanks for putting this all together, because she's the one who started the ball to rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be happy to do that. And just kind of a follow-up with Aaron said, life's about relationships, guys. And what a great relationship builder football is, the game of football, but particularly the time that y'all played during that era and what you learned about each other as you went through that season, not just that season, but being in school together. I'll tell you, some of these stories are so enriching. And I think that's the thing about it at the end of the day, that you feel fulfilled about what you were involved in at that particular time in your life. And those relationships continue for a lifetime. And I think that's what's great about Millsaps. It brings people together for a common purpose. And y'all have been one of the top teams to ever play at Millsaps. And so you should be proud of that.
Thank you.
We can probably share stories all night and people will get tired, but if I can share one more recent, I guess, experience of how football has impacted me. Some of y'all know, some of you don't. I had a heart attack about 2 years ago and was on life support for a month or so. And doctor got no response from me. My wife's whispering in my ear. My daughter is. Nobody's getting much response. And one day, Tim Delaney walks in the room and leans over in my face, and in his best Coach Ranniger voice says, "Boy, you better get your ass and get up out of here." And I started trying to climb out of the bed.
Oh. All right. Hey, before we go, I want the best. Who's got the best Coach Davis impersonation? Because everybody that's ever played for him has one. Who's got the best one in this group?
Gus.
No.
Gus.
What about Byrd?
I'll do the Hill of Beans speech.
I'm pretty good
I've been doing it longer than anybody.
Hey, what is the Hill of Beans speech? Somebody's got to give it now. If Brad says it's important enough, what is the Hill of Beans speech?
Well, I'll let someone else be the voice, but he drew this little pyramid of circles on the blackboard. You guys know what this is? Go ahead, Gus.
Yeah, he was really detailed. He put all these little circles and piled it up into a little into a pile, and he said, "This is a hill of beans, and 98% of all injuries don't amount to a hill of beans." And that was prior to the 1980 season. I was Tannehill, I think, had gotten hurt, and about had to take him to out on. Anyway, he got hit pretty hard, and but it was like you got to play hurt, you got to play through adversity because 98 or 99% of all injuries don't amount to a hill of beans.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, I think we all kind of relate to that as far as overcoming adversity. It was a life lesson at that particular time. We didn't realize it, but today we all face adversity, and you just deal with it.
That's right.
From a guy that from a previous team, I've got to share this one. I just have to. I can't let it go. We were out playing Austin College, and it was probably planted. We don't know, but we found a scouting report, so we carried it to Coach Davis. This was before the game. We found a scouting report. It says here on the goal line, when in doubt, off tackle, and 26 power, I believe the play was called. And he looked at that scouting report for a minute and he goes, well, they still got to stop it. That was his comment.
Yeah.
And we went out and ran it, scored, won the ball game. So,
Won the same way.
That's right. Yeah.
They can't stop you if they can't stop it if you block it properly.
That's right. And Coach Raniger, he had the fiercest heart of anybody I've ever known. There was I forget what had happened, but must have been our senior year. We had lost the game for some questionable officiating, and there was a lot of mumbling going on about that. And even Coach Davis had said something to the effect. And then Coach Radiger had the offensive line down the other end. He said, some people, they like to make excuses, but not me. I'd rather eat shit than lose.
I think that was Maryville, and that was a year after. That was a year after the undefeated team, Brad.
No, Central Florida.
When we lost,
to Central Florida the next year.
Yeah, right. But Coach Radiger did not make excuses. He was a winner from day one.
The eat shit and lose was a regular. That one, and you ain't worth the shit. You won't ever play college football was a weekly.
I'm going to have to drop off here in just a minute, but I want to just add one thing. Melvin will be able to relate to this. I've stayed involved in football since I guess I got re-involved in football about 6 years after I left Millsaps, and so I've been in the midst of my 31st year officiating in the SEC. And I look at these players out there, and Melvin knows what I'm talking about. These players are working in the greatest environment as far as being able to develop athletes that you can imagine. It is absolutely incredible what assets they have available to them. And I look at them and I don't think that they realize how fortunate they are. I used to really kind of think that way, but now I'm not so sure that we're the ones that are fortunate to have gone through what we went through. I don't know that I'd want to go back through it, but as far as developing us to and being prepared to face what we have faced from that particular point in time,
right.
We're really fortunate.
Okay.
And I see it. I see it every week. I just, these guys just don't. I'm sure they appreciate what they got. Some of them don't, but because they're looking, they feel entitled and they're just looking for the next break. We had no entitlement. We were out there just playing, having a great time. We were great friends. We were great teammates. We were more friends off the field than we were teammates on the field. And that's the thing that I will always carry with me from here until, my last breath on earth. So you guys, I love you. You're my friends first. You're my teammates second. And thanks Millsaps College for putting this program together. And good luck to y'all the rest of the way.
Yeah. Thank you.
We need to do this more often, but maybe not record it.
That's right.
CS's is the last place in Jackson that doesn't have cameras, so you're probably safe if you get together over there.
Yeah, only if glad those walls can't talk.
So, some of us have been thrown out of there before. I don't know if we can go back.
That's right.
Well, I've enjoyed reminiscing as well, and I'll say it, kind of what Gus said. Love every one of y'all, and it's some of the best days of my life, and I'm so proud of what we did. Proud of what we tried to do my senior year. We wanted to go undefeated again, and we almost did. I hate Busick is not on here. What we did together, is kind of unheard of as well. A 2-quarterback system that Coach put us under, and he had been starting at cornerback the year before. So, it meant that he and I both, were only playing half the time. And yet we accepted that role. And that's just almost unheard of, to have 2 people at every position just about across the board. And I'm just proud of the team we had. And I'll say it like Gus said, I love every one of you.
You're here.
Amen.
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 Amen to that.
Amen.
Well, I hope that I get a chance.
Thank you guys for allowing me to participate with you guys today. It was an honor and a privilege, as I said earlier. Thank you, Aaron, for y'all inviting me to be part of this.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Take care, Ron. Hey, I appreciate everybody being on today and taking some time out of a Sunday and, away from your families and everything else. I hope that I get to see y'all on campus soon. I see a couple of you every once in a while, but I'd really like to get to know a lot of you more. Millsaps has been my home and will continue to be my home as long as they'll have me. And I didn't play Division III football, but I've come to love Division III football for what it stands for. Like Gus said, I think that our kids are better. I just think that they are. I think that they do it because they love it, and they've got to be able to balance their time and manage all the things that y'all are talking about here, and a tough schedule, as well as, hey, we're done playing. We got finals next week, and we got to roll. And that's where I think that our kids that graduate from Millsaps and our players and our athletes have an advantage over all the other athletes. I do think that we do a lot for our athletes now, even in Division III, but it doesn't even come close to the entitlement that they've got at the upper levels and the things that they expect. So I think our kids are better. And I appreciate y'all, allowing me to be part of this here today. And I really do look forward to meeting everybody in person that I haven't met before and seeing everybody on campus for a game. I'd love to host you anytime that you're going to be on campus. So just reach out to me and let me know. I'll be sending some stuff out here later, so you all have my contact information. So if there's anything that we can do for you, anything that I can do for you individually, or if you've got a player in your area in any sport, just let us know. Okay, we'd love to get you involved in any possible way.
Anytime you don't want to take the team. What was it?
Go ahead, James.
I was saying, anytime you don't want to take the team to Joey's Methodist service, feel free to bring them the fresh start.
Hey, you got it. I'll take you up on that.
Hey, I want to say something real quick. I want the group to know.
I see Roger.
I don't know if it's feasible for us to maybe do this again at some point, but Coach Davis has gone to live with his son over in North Alabama. And I haven't had a really a good update from him lately. Some of y'all, got clued in about the radio show interview that Joey Hawkins had. Joey was at JA when I coached with Coach Davis for 14 years. And Joey has a radio show on Thursday nights down in Hattiesburg. And he got Coach Davis on there a month or 2 months ago. And some of y'all may have heard that. But after y'all get this put together as far as the recording and so forth, I certainly want to see if we can get in touch with his son and see if we can present that to him so he can see our memories of this team. And then if there's any way we could do this Zoom call again and get Coach Davis on, I think that would be a trip.
Wow. Yeah.
We'll work on that, Byrd. We've been having, since he moved, we've been having a difficult time getting in touch with him. He was difficult to get in touch with when he was even living in Jackson because, he never carried a cell phone. So you had to call him at his house and leave a message, and, he might call you back or he might not. And he had a pretty active dating life too. So
That's right.
he had a lot of stuff going on. But we'll continue to try to work to get in touch with him. And then we absolutely plan to make sure that he gets this. And if I can find that radio interview, Byrd, I know Joey. Maybe I can get a copy of that. Maybe I can send that out to the group too, so everybody has a chance to do that.
When are y'all gonna start playing again, Aaron?
So we hope that we're going to play starting in February. So the first weekend of February right now is what we think is going to be week 1 for football. And we'll play, right now that it's slated to play a 4-game scheduled divisional season, with the 5th game being a crossover game based on what your rank is in the division. So 1 plays 1, 2 plays 2, and that'll be in Little Rock. That's kind of the way it's looking right now. And the reason we're only playing 5 games is because the NCAA has granted a blanket waiver for fall sports, really for all sports this season. If you play in 50% or less of your contacts, you get to preserve a year of eligibility. So we're going to try to preserve a year of eligibility for our players that want to. And so some of them will be able to come back for a 5th year. And with our NBA program as strong as it is at Millsaps, we think we'll be able to attract some kids to be able to come back and play in that 5th year. So that's kind of what's on the horizon. Now that's up for a vote starting Monday. Our presidents will vote for it on Monday. Still a lot of questions and things like that going around. But the one thing that I will tell you is that our president wants to play. Our president wants to play sports, wants to compete in the spring, and we're going to try to do it if we can, but and any way we can. But that's the plan so far.
Well, guys, I just want to share something before we close. This has been one of the highlights of my life, just having a chance to do this. That 1980 season, it probably, if we had gone to the playoffs, we might not be having this meeting because we might not still be undefeated. Right now, we're undefeated. So that's one way to look at it. And that's the only undefeated season I've ever been a part of, because every other one, even when I was a high school coach, we went 13-0, but we got beat for the state championship. So that doesn't resonate in my mind like this undefeated season. But I got an opportunity to coach Division III football. That was my last job. I really enjoyed coaching Division III kids. I worked at Belhaven for 18 months. And if I could move Belhaven to Texas where my wife, where I live, I never would have left the job. I really enjoyed coaching Division III kids because they love to play the game. What you teach them is what they give you back. It was a great experience for me. And I coached Division I ball 26, 27 years. But I just want to tell you this. There's nothing like coaching guys like us. There's nothing like coaching guys like us. Because there's Gus talked about how Division I athletes, how they have everything, access to everything, and sometimes it's like they don't appreciate it. One thing about guys like us, we appreciate what you do for us, and we really, we're great stewards of the game of football.
I think, Bonds, it's annoying.
So I just wanted to share that with you.
And the true testament of a Millsaps Division III, and in particular the athletes, if you go down the roster of our 1980 team, look at the career that these guys have had, including myself. Very accomplished in their fields. So they use the football to get them to the next level. and they took that and they ran with it, and they became major movers in whatever industry they're in, whether it be, money management, whether it be like Roger Petroleum, Melvin the coach, James Henley helping lead people's lives and that kind of thing. So that experience, you could look at our roster and tell it's not wasted. We did something with the experience and we used it to become better and to make other people better. And I don't know if you could ask for much more than that.
Amen.
Can I add one last thing, please? I was fortunate to be on a high school undefeated team. We were 14-0 state champions. I was a kicker and all that. Once again, I know we're, low lifes and all of that. Teasing, but sometimes very important. But that high school team, we had 75 or 80 players on that team. We had 40 some odd. You guys, I stay very little contact, if at all, maybe through Facebook with some of my high school teammates. You guys, I've stayed in touch. I've seen a lot of you through the time that we've lived here in Jackson. I consider you all brothers. Those were more of teammates, even though I've got 2 rings. This one is more important to me as you guys are.
Well, listen, hey, I appreciate everybody sharing today, and there's a lot more to talk about for sure. And maybe, on your suggestion, Byrd, we can get this back together or maybe reconvene a little bit and maybe get Harper involved. But if anybody needs anything from me, my stuff will be coming out. My contact information will be coming out shortly. And I really appreciate everybody's time. And I hope you all have a great Sunday and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good job, guys.